Are Oregonians out of touch with the rest of America? On November 4th, the general election that was just 2 months ago, all across this wonderful country, there was an enormous, a gigantic Republican Party sweep. It happened at the U.S. Capitol and the majority of state houses all across America. Voters were sending, I believe, a very clear message that they were tired of the Democrat control and they were tired of the Democrat agenda. They said enough, but not here in Oregon. So what was the message? What is it that Oregonians are saying that's so out of touch with the rest of America? I'm Patti Milne, and this is People, Places, and Politics. And today my guest is former state representative Jeff Kropf. And Jeff served 4 terms, is that correct? 4 terms in the Oregon State Legislature. You retired in January of 2007, and while you were in the legislature, you served on the Full Ways and Means Committee, the Transportation Committee, and chaired the House Agriculture Committee. And among your many, many accomplishments, not only at the legislature, but doing a number of other things in your life, you have a very, very full resume, but some of the highlights of that resume include being the state director of the Oregon chapter of Americans for Prosperity, and you are currently the executive director of the Oregon Capitol Watch Foundation. And the mission of that organization is to educate Oregon citizens on how tax dollars are spent. And you are a founding member of the New Budget Coalition. And Jeff is also a very passionate advocate for common sense government budgeting, budget reform, and you speak regularly on this topic. And that's why I've invited you, because you speak very well on a number of topics. So, Jeff, let's talk about what happened here and what was it that Oregonians were saying on Election Day. And do Oregonians want something different from the rest of America?
Well, I think in Oregon, in large measure, by the way, thanks for letting me come and join with you on your inaugural show. I think Oregon is a little bit different in some ways, and I think it was a combination of factors. I think it is the fact that, frankly, Oregon voters didn't buy what Republican top-of-the-ticket folks were selling, either in the message or the individual didn't connect with them. And in this business, you have to connect with people. It's so critical. So emotionally, people weren't invested and didn't connect with them for whatever reasons. And the other reason that I think is what made Oregon different from the rest of the entire nation was the fact that there is a profoundly efficient and effective Democrat turnout machine in this state. Whether it's the powerful public employees unions now joining with private sector unions, stepping up in a way that we've never seen them do before, at a level much higher.
And is this very recent?
Yes, it is.
It's very recent.
In fact, there are a number of news stories about various private sector unions stepping up their game dramatically, even in some of the primary races for Republicans. And one that was mentioned in a news story was Jim Thompson's race against Mike Neerman, just very close to here. And a public employees, or not, a private sector union raised 10 times the amount of money than they had ever raised before, and put their people out there working for a conservative Republican legislator, Jim Thompson. And what I find fascinating with that is that all of that was done under the radar. And none of us knew that that was really occurring until after the effect and the reports.
How were they able to fly under the radar? How were they able to accomplish that?
Well, not enough people on our side were watching, number one. Because at some point, I mean, you have to reveal when you're, like if I do something to help your campaign, I have to report that as an in-kind contribution. So people, I don't think, were watching that very well. And the other thing is certain of those unions have not been that active before. So they were very able to get their message out, I think, to marginal voters who were swing voters, could go either way. And I think that they, in certain areas of the state, Washington County, Clackamas County, Lane County, that they were very pivotal in being able to do that. The other thing that we have the slow, painful lesson of our side has been learning is that they are light years ahead of us in data and technology and understanding the mindset of individual voters. And you know, we're at a great disadvantage. You know, I'm a businessman, and in farming, if you're not competitive, if you don't do what at least your competitors are doing, you're not going to be competitive and you won't be farming for very long. And it's no different in politics. The other side has a turnout machine that is profound, perhaps the best in the nation, in this state. We would say that they have the liberal news media largely on their side.
Definitely.
A lot of public employees on their side, not all. By any stretch, a lot of private sector union, and the deck is stacked against us. They have enormous data on voters. They know what really pushes the hot button of certain voters, and those are usually swing voters. We also now have data after this election, and I think this was a real eye-opener for me because I didn't see this coming. The other side is very, very good at registering voters.
Oh, definitely.
Through environmental organizations that are obviously support Democrat candidates far more than they do Republicans, and other organizations who are out there actively registering voters. But these are different types of voters. They're not registering as Republicans, not registering as Democrats. They're registering as non-affiliated voters.
But now, nonetheless, they somehow become beholden.
They do.
To the.
They are what we classically refer to in this business, Republicans or Democrats, as low information voters. Doesn't mean they're stupid. Not by any stretch of the imagination. They're just busy. And maybe they're working their way up the ladder of success. And that's why you see at bus stops people using public transportation, that type of thing. People registering people to vote. But those are low information voters who maybe don't have the time or the inclination to really get into the meat and understanding politics and how it's impacting their lives and which ideology, the two really different ideologies in America politics, how that's impacting their lives. So they're very susceptible, rather, to slogans, to very short snippets that then frame in their mind, this person cares about me, or I like that issue, I identify with that, I'm going to vote that way, or I'm going to vote for that person because they're charismatic, they got through to me, they communicated with me, they are saying the same things I believe. And so we, on our side, we just don't seem to do that very well, it seems.
We're too busy doing our own independent, take care of ourselves. And,
I think so.
And I'll get to it later.
And those are the stark differences in ideology between the limited government Republican side of the aisle and the collectivist mindset of the Democratic Party. And those are the real differences. And many of these new people registered in Oregon, and there were thousands and thousands of them, are really pointing towards the left side of the message rather than the individual responsibility. It's a lot easier to accept the idea that this person wants to give me something, so I'm going to vote for them, as opposed to this person saying, no, you need to go out and work for it and earn it. You know, we'll give you a hand up, but we're not going to give you a handout forever. Okay, and those are the differences. So if you're a young voter, you're a new information voter, low information voter, you've just gotten registered, which of those two are you going to likely?
It's the person who took the time to court you.
Right.
So
typically, and has a message that resonates with you. I mean, let's not forget about that. That's very important.
Or a message that probably, as you were saying, is very simple. It's that 30-second soundbite instead of getting into all, which Republicans want to explain how the clock works, as my husband would say. Just tell me it's on time. You know, it's accurate.
How true? How true?
So that lays a whole new. It's like a whole new ball game. So what happens?
It is. It very much is a whole new ball. In fact, in my 55 years of living and 40 plus years being involved in politics, I've never seen the political landscape change so rapidly. And a lot of it has to do with, you know, things like social media on our iPhones or our Androids, and, you know, Twitter and Facebook and these tools that the other side has been data mining for a long time now and figuring out who are the people we can influence differently now, because mailers, which we depend on, TV ads, radio ads. That's the traditional way of communicating with people. The other side has figured out that you can communicate better, more effectively, and cheaper, and faster, and more often if you know something about someone who's on social media and they're registered to vote. You can design micro-targeted messages directly to that person. They are miles and miles ahead of us on our side on that particular issue. And the real danger is if our side doesn't figure this out and get caught up,
we're not going to make any gains.
Not in Oregon.
So again, going back to Republicans want to point out to the people the pitfalls of the liberal agenda. But most people are too busy, and again, they want just the soundbite.
Right.
The problem, I think, that we run into is, first you have to show why the message that the Democrats are giving is not the whole truth. It's just that soundbite that sounds good. The Affordable Care Act is such a good example.
Obamacare.
Oh, you get to yeah. I was trying to be polite.
Policy wonk that you are.
So it's going to cost less. You're going to have better care, and on and on and on. And so the people bought into it. Now we're finding out, even I heard on a show just very recently at Harvard, they are pointing out, no, you can't have the affordability, the quality, and serve the people. And of course, when I was in the legislature in the 90s, we talked a lot about this because of the Oregon Health Plan. Those three are the components, and if one is out of kilter, it affects one or the other. But the liberals would tell you you can achieve all three at once. Well, it's impossible. Life doesn't work that way.
Life is not fair, unfortunately. With my genetics, I should have been 6'6" and had a career as a middle linebacker in the NFL. Didn't happen. I could say that's unfair for me.
Yeah.
I have no control over this. Some things in life you just have no control over. It isn't our role in government necessarily to quote unquote level the playing field for everyone, because frankly it's impossible to do that.
But
it's a noble goal. And the other side is very good at presenting that noble argument or that noble goal. And everybody likes it. Everybody wants to be treated fairly. I want to be treated fairly, and I know you do too. But sometimes it just doesn't happen, and government can only do so much. And I think we, on our side, again, we want to explain the intricate workings of the clock. The other side says, does the train run on time? Because that's ultimately, in our busy lives, that's what matters to you. So how does bad public policy that says it's good for you, how do we get across the message that it hurts you?
So are we going to just have to let some of these policies run their course, and people will see that they are not working as they were promised? And not that intentions are bad. I'm not, we all want affordable health care.
Sure.
We all want the best education for our children, our grandchildren, and for every child, because it's in our best interest. But to be able to convince the voters there's another path to this success and to a better future. Do we have to just let these current policies run their course and people realize that this isn't working as it was promised? Or what else can be done?
Well, I think some policies, you have to be able to show people. It's just like Republicans and Democrats voted for Cover Oregon. $305 million expenditure. And it for a website only. That signed up 0 people. There was snake oil being sold to the legislature. People like you and I were warning our former colleagues, don't go down this road, because we know about government IT projects and how in this state anyway, very few of them actually achieve their goals and come in on budget and do the things they're supposed to do. So, we had to let that run its course because we weren't going to be able to stop it, number one. And number two is that illustrates a spectacular failure of an idea whose, again, was a noble goal, but simply was was just not gonna work, and many of us saw that from the get-go. I think other times you have to fight, and you have to frame the debate, and you have to stand up and use every tool at your disposal, including shows like this, or talk radio, or knocking on people's doors, to really get people fired up about an issue that really impacts them individually, right at the most basic level. President Obama said the average family of four is going to save $2,500 a year on their health insurance. Demonstrably not true. In fact, costs are still going up, and now they're pivoting and saying, well, but costs are not rising as fast as they were. Okay, you could keep your doctor, right? So many people have lost their doctors because they can't keep their health plan. They got kicked off their plans. And now we're seeing that as of January 1st of this year, the employer mandate kick in.
Yes.
And many people are going to be losing their health insurance, unfortunately, at their work.
Or their job.
Or their job because of those costs. So we have to remind people, using every tool again at our disposal, including social media, getting into the 21st century, that sometimes you have to keep fighting. You have to keep pointing out that those ideas aren't working. The Democrats in control of the legislature right now, and Governor Kitzhaber reelected, Monday are going to they're going to drop a bill, I am told, for a carbon tax in Oregon. That only hurts the working poor, and it really hurts the middle class of this state.
So if we want to change people's minds and get them away from these policies that really are quite destructive to their livelihood, to their future, we have to point out how destructive that carbon tax will be. But here again, from going back to what you initially said, we can't get into the minutia. We have to find that soundbite, if you will, that just grabs their attention, and then they realize and they can say, oh my gosh, my gasoline tax just went up. Why? Well, it's for the carbon tax. Or a tax on, it might even be buying a new furnace for your house.
Right.
They're likely, I would think that could be attacked too. But some of these taxes will be buried. They'll try to bury the tax so these average working people who are just going to work every day, trying to put food on the table, keep their head above water, they won't see these taxes coming and biting them in the rear, so to speak.
They're going to be buried because they're not going to be called taxes. Because when they're called a tax, there's the whole Constitution of Oregon allows we the people to stand up and vote on that if we don't like it. Okay, there's a whole process. They're going to bury them because they're not going to call them taxes, they're going to call them fees. And what your listeners need to understand is that half of Oregon's $64 billion 2-year budget, half are fees. They're not taxes, they're fees. So every time you go to the DMV and you got to pay more to register your car or your motorhome or your boat or whatever, every time you go to pay a water bill or you pay your electric bill, there's new fees added on there, and some of those fees get voted on by the legislature. You voted on them, I voted on them. And that is more money out of your pocket as a middle class, a struggling single mother. And you know what that's like. You've been there.
Yes.
You were a struggling single mother. You know, if those of us who believe in individual responsibility and believe in the wonderful American dream that anybody can be anything they want to be in this country, if they believe in themselves, number one, and they work hard enough to get there. If you're a struggling single mother and you're trying to get to that place, and yet every time you turn around, your rent's going up, you're paying more at the pump, you're paying more for groceries, because of carbon taxes and new regulations beyond that. If you can't get ahead, and you're very frustrated. So when somebody comes along and offers you free stuff, like a free Obama phone, which by the way started under the Bush administration, let's be honest here. Okay, if they're offering you free stuff, and they're saying, we can make your life better. Let's tax the rich because they're getting ahead and you're not. What you don't realize, the reason you're getting ahead is because those people who are giving you that song and dance are selling you something that's simply not true, because they, in the back door, are raising your taxes and raising your fees and your cost of living, and they're killing your American dream, your individual opportunity, because they're making it almost impossible. And until we get to the place where we can say that in 10 or 15 seconds or in a sentence, we're not going to win elections.
Well, and key to this, saying this and pointing it out, is I always want to encourage people to follow the legislative session, talk to their legislator.
Yes, absolutely.
When their phone bill, their water bill, as you pointed out, comes, and they need to make a copy of that and say to their legislator, look, where'd this new fee come from? Right. And it went up. It went up. The one that you passed 2 sessions ago, now it's gone up 50% or ever how much. And people have got to get involved and start paying attention to these.
And our side has to, we have to be able to show that, I learned this early on in running in campaigns a long time ago. You have to show yourself very different from your opponent, whether it's in a primary or it's in a general election. You have to give the voters a clear choice. And my old saying is, don't compete with a Democrat. You can't out-Democrat a Democrat.
That's true.
Okay? If you're offering free stuff to people, they're always going to offer more, and they own that side of the argument. Everybody knows it.
Right.
Okay? So don't go down that road. Offer some other common sense alternative, but offer it in an emotional way that gets inside the heart and the mind of someone who really is struggling and who really honestly wants to make a good decision on an issue or a good decision on who to elect to serve them. If we can't communicate that what we believe really does help them in the long run and gives their kids and their grandkids the best future possible, if we can't communicate that, then you know what? We don't deserve to win elections.
Well, that's true. And we've been losing elections and losing seats in the House and the Senate, and of course we can't get any Republicans elected to a statewide office, and then of course Congressman Greg Walden is the only Republican from Oregon to represent us at the federal level. We have a lot of work to do. So what do you propose? I mean, are there some efforts? Are groups getting together and
there are, yes. there are, and there are great opportunities. There's a group I participate with that really is grassroots oriented from our side, the limited government side. And it's the Oregon Liberty Coalition, and we have 27 groups from all over the state. Some local, some are more statewide in nature. And we work together on a regular basis. We hold a Monday conference call, talk about what our groups are doing. Then we have something that occurs in the Capitol during the legislative session, which is called the Oregon Citizens Lobby. And we're there every Thursday, all day long. And this is where ordinary folks who want to get involved, who believe in limited government, who believe in individual responsibility, who believe in free markets. Okay, if you're socialist, don't come spend time with us because you're not going to enjoy hanging with us. But come down and hang with us. You can hang with us all day long. We teach you the skills of how to go lobby your legislator, or how to testify in front of a committee, how to ask a legislator to introduce a bill on your behalf or an amendment, or tell your story like you talked about. That's so important. And legislators, even those who are on the other side of the aisle ideologically, they react to those stories because they're real. And if people feel like they don't have the skill sets to do that, we want to help empower them, because they do, and they can make a powerful difference.
Now that group has been meeting for some time. That's not a new...
3 years now.
3 years.
Yeah.
And so why don't you just go ahead and let the audience know if they're interested in this? How would they know?
You go on the internet and visit our website. Number one, it's www.OregonCitizensLobby.org.
Good.
So it's Oregon Citizens, plural, lobby.org.
Good.
And it tells us a little bit about us, how we got started, what our mission is, what we do, and there's some wonderful training on there about how to testify in front of committees, and there's videos about how to do all of that stuff. So you can really go on that website. We're there every Thursday when the legislature starts, and we are in next to the Senate chamber when you walk up the stairs. So there'll be a sign out there, and you can ask, and people will tell you. So that's how people can get involved. It's a lot of fun. People come to us every year that have never done anything like that, but maybe their ox is getting gored by some issue that's being talked about. And now all of a sudden they're engaged because this threatens them personally. And we help them become effective at working on that issue, whatever it is.
Good, good. And what other opportunities might there be for people to get involved, or if maybe their work schedule wouldn't allow them to go on Thursdays? So what else can they do?
One of the other things that we offer at Oregon Citizens Lobby is the opportunity for people who live all across the state or who can't go there because they work like you described, to sit at their computer and look at legislation that's being introduced by individual legislators, by committees, and judge that legislation based on our 5 limited government principles, which we articulate on the website. And they can be a part of a committee. And maybe they're a retired school teacher and they care about education. They can be a part of the education committee. So bills come out that look like they're going to go somewhere. And they can be part of a team that reviews that legislation. They can write about it, and we give them the thumbs up or the thumbs down, again, from our limited government perspective. That's another website that you can go to, OregonCitizensLobby.org. It's called TrackTheirVote.org, and again, we have training videos of how you can be involved with that.
Very good. You mentioned there are five criteria, 5 points. Why don't you just go ahead and take a minute to run through those? I think people would find that interesting.
I got to try to remember all of them.
Well, yeah.
You put me on the spot here.
I'm sorry.
So it's individual responsibility. That's very important. Free markets, local control. We're big believers in local control. Is it limited government? And I forget the 5th one, just to be honest with you. That's not my Rick Perry moment, okay?
That will get people's attention, though, and yes. So there are ways that they can get involved, even if they don't live close or their schedule just doesn't allow it.
In fact, we're starting next week, we're going out on a statewide tour for the next month and a half, going to many of these various groups, and we're going to be demonstrating in real time how people can be involved from all over the state. So it really is an opportunity to stand up and take control of your own destiny. If you're not willing to be a part of a solution by being active at some level, doing something. I got my start in politics being appointed to a planning commission. Okay?
That happens, that happens.
And you got your start in running for a school board.
That's right.
So there's another great organization called the Western Liberty Network. Go to westernlibertynetwork.org. That helps people who want to serve at the local level, like on a water board or fire board like I do, or school board like you did. It helps plug them in to those positions, teaches them how to run a shoestring campaign in your local neighborhood, and get elected to a school board. All of those great skills. It really gives people some direction and feels like they can be successful in making a difference. So there's great resources out there. Just get involved, start looking around, asking around, come visit us at the War Room, we call it, at the Oregon Citizen Lobby every Thursday.
And if they go to your website, they can get on your list and receive all the information that there is. And it looks like we're running out of time, but I want to thank you so much, Jeff, for coming and sharing your thoughts. Yes, this is very exciting, and this is my inaugural People, Places, and Politics, and we won't always talk about politics, but I couldn't resist with the election just being over and the legislative session beginning in just days. I know it's a very short, the governor will be inaugurated next Monday. Legislature sworn in. Yes. Old and new members. The most important thing is, friends, don't give up hope. If you believe in liberty, if you believe in limited government, we can turn this thing around, but it'll never happen unless you get involved. That's a great way to end. Thank you so much for being with me today, and I hope you'll come back. I will. Thank you.